Hello, how's everybody doing? We're about to go live with domestic violence. Not just breaking the cycle. If we were to do this in words, we would say breaking the cycle with a strike through it and go to healing the cycle. How can we heal the cycle of domestic violence? So I got two women that are going to be coming on here with me. So I'm going to give them the space to join us so we can unpack this and hopefully give men and women the strength to get out of relationships that no longer serve you with even a little violence or a lot of violence. But ultimately, it is your choice. It is our choice when we want to get out of relationships. Oh, there we go. There's... Hey, what is up?
Howdy.
I'm doing all right.
Happy hump
All right.
day.
Yes. Domestic violence.
Yeah, a heavy topic for today. I've been kind of nervous about it, but I'm excited to, share a little bit about my story and hopefully we can also get Amanda or manifest Amanda into this conversation.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, I had a passenger the other day that I was giving her a ride. And like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my passengers, I just show up at the perfect time for them. And I learned a lot of this halfway through the ride. She was has a husband that's totally getting on her, yelling. I don't think there was any physical violence. But we all know how the emotional violence, the denigrating can be uh, just as bad in some ways, for sure. So when she had said that she's building herself up, she's going to get out of this relationship, that's when I started to speak towards that because I believe she has the wherewithal. She has the wherewithal to be that person. Trying to get Corona back on here. Sorry about this. There we go. So, one of the things that I shared with her, that I'm going to share with all you right now, during slavery time, it's probably the known for the first social media ever. During slavery time, have you heard the song Swing Low, Sweet Chariot? What that was social media. So when the slaves were working, they knew that the Underground Railroad was going to be leaving at a certain time at a certain place when they heard that song. And I believe, I don't like to overuse the word slavery, but you could say somebody that's under domestic violence is in a slave situation. And the Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, I told this lady to hum that to herself when her husband's degrading her. And I'm building my life up over here. And I'm going to escape this relationship. And we like to think that we could just reason with them and say stuff like that, but that might cause more violence towards you. You might say, well, I'm taking this class, I'm going to fucking leave your ass. But that might be put in a situation that they're going to create more violence against you. So before I get Corona involved, I want you to imagine somebody that's under slavery that a lot of African Americans had done a long time ago. And then all of a sudden on that day, they're like, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. And as I'm singing, think about these relationships that you've been in that were reminders, because there might have been certain things that you're attracted, and I don't want to shame anybody for this, but there might have been things that you're attracted to. There, it could be very sexy for somebody to be protective for you, but that security sometimes, when others aren't around for them to protect you, sometimes they attack themselves and attack you. So we need to know that, like there's a lot of people that talk about alpha dogs, and me, somebody that can handle myself, just because somebody bumps into me, like fighting them, there's just not much to that. It's like, I think of that as being an insecure person that has to fight somebody because somebody bumped into them. Like sometimes somebody might be actively coming towards you, but I accidentally bump into you, you might have to defend yourself. So going back to domestic violence, you might be attracted to that, and it might be a biology thing, and it might be something that was important several generations, several centuries ago, but that might be a false sense of security because that person loses their job, that person all of a sudden gets a little depressed or whatever. It could all of a sudden change things that they start attacking you.
Yeah. You know, one thing that I was kind of sitting back and thinking of is sometimes, obviously, like thinking about generational patterns, you know, we choose things that look familiar to us or seem familiar to us or feel familiar to us, right? And it's up to, I don't know, I was just kind of
That's
reflecting on my own situation, and how it's kind of up to ourselves to break that generational curse,
yeah.
or you know, to make changes to our incoming relationships, right? Because every relationship is God send. Every relationship, it develops, it appears in our life for a greater reason or purpose, whatever reason that is, whether it be a good one or a bad one. You know, there's always something that we can learn from it, something we take from it, and something we can choose to discard from it, right? Or if a relationship ends up going sour, like how do you deal with that relationship? How do you discard of that relationship, right? Because for a lot of people, it's easy to just be like, all right, this relationship doesn't serve me. Probably not even check in with the person and tell them that you're done with that relationship, and you just kind of leave them hanging, right? What type of energy does that create down the line, not just for yourself, but for that person? Not giving that person a closure, not giving that person any type of energy when you do close that chapter, when you do close that door, right? What energy is created in that? That's important.
Because if we don't heal the cycle, then we're going to repeat that cycle in the future. And there may be a little progress there, but if we don't address what we need to address, and I think about what does the future me look like? How have I evolved? Okay, I dated a woman that held me down and got me to a dark place, and there was no domestic violence in well, on her end, she hit me, but that helped me appreciate women that are nicer. That helped by doing that. It went to the point that it made me the domestic violence that I went through helped me notice the beauty in all women more.
Mm.
And I am thankful to her from afar. I wouldn't necessarily have the conversation because who she is still in my mind. I don't think she could grasp it because she was comfortable enough in her situation that she wasn't willing to do that. And it was her cycle on on that side that created what was done. And
You know what? And you
I
know
was perfect
what?
in the relationship. Go ahead.
I kind of I went to a really dark place with this, right? With just kind of remembering my previous toxic relationships, and connecting it to Ruben, connecting it to who he was, right? Looking into that situation and kind of relating it. Sometimes relationships with a certain person might not be the best for us, but maybe down the line it was a better person. It was a better relationship with somebody else. Sometimes certain energies are just not meant to clash, to blend, to come into contact with one another, and that's okay, because maybe down the line there is someone that person vibes with, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And there's always going to be a little bit of glimmer of light even within the nastiest situation, right? There's always dark and light intermixing with one another. And I'm sure that, like you said, right, you can have appreciation from afar, right? Because that's you protecting your energy. That's you being mindful and being aware of all of the energy that she brought into your life. Energy for me, whether it be romantically, whether it be as a friend, whatever label it is that you put on it, that's you protecting your energy, and that's important.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because if you're not protecting your energy, that's you're in that energy of creating that cycle,
Mm-hmm.
continuing that cycle. If you're marinating in that energy that all women are toxic, all men suck type stuff, you're doing is attracting that for you that into your future
Mm-hmm.
more so.
How do you place your boundaries? Like, so with for me, right, we tend to look a lot at our parents. We tend to reflect a lot on our parents' situation growing up. At least I did, right? And as I grew, I picked up things that I was like, you know what, when I grow up I want to do this just like they did, or I don't want to do this the way that they did, right? For me, I never saw my parents get physical. I never saw them fighting in front of my face. And that was something that I could appreciate, regardless of how bad my parents' situation was behind closed doors, because I was kind of unaware of it until, once you start getting older, you start picking up on certain patterns and energies that aren't necessarily healthy. But for me, I knew that whenever I was in a relationship growing up, going forward, one thing I was absolutely never going to allow was someone getting physical with me to hurt me physically, right? Now, the whole emotional, psycho, whatever act, you know what I'm trying to say, the psychological aspect to it was a whole different thing. And I think that allowed me to be okay with being psychologically abused in the past, right? And it's something that I'm still working towards. It's something that I'm now aware of like, okay, this did happen with my parents. Do I want to continue to allow it into my future? And if so, where's my boundary? Where do I place my boundaries with this type of abuse? Because egos are real, they exist. And whether we want to live a life kind of ignoring that egos exist, I mean, it's gonna come up.
So the reason why I like the term healing the cycle, because this stuff never goes away.
Right.
Um, but it can be healed,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be out of balance, and then it can be in balance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to acknowledge that we are all capable of this on both sides. The society says boys shouldn't hit girls, men shouldn't hit women. It should also say that men shouldn't hit men. And for lesbian relationships, women shouldn't hit women. I mean, even if you have
Mm-hmm.
women as a friend, like you guys shouldn't be hitting each other.
Yeah.
Um, but also totally not acknowledging violence and just like having like suppressed anger can snap us to do some really bad things. So it's good to let ourselves know and check in with ourselves of how we're feeling and being able to communicate that in a place to create a compelling future in the future.
Yeah.
So I want to tell a story that Dave Chappelle told, and I want to put my own spin on it. So Dave has this joke about an actual pimp that wrote a book, and I don't know his name, wrote a book about how to control women. And he had this situation that he can tell by looking at a woman like how much she can get paid for sex. And like he called, I forgot what they call the mileage. He can tell how much she will have sex with strangers for money before she goes crazy. And then he had strategies to get more mileage, and these are his words, not mine, more mileage out of the woman. And what he did one time is she says she wants to get out of the game. So he's like, cool, what I need you to do is just do one more job. So this guy needs some pills. So he gives she goes, does this last job, gives the guy his pills. It turns out that this guy was killed. He had a doctor come to the place. He had like several people to come to the place, and then he was the savior for her because he's like, hey, we'll make sure that you don't get arrested or whatever the case is and everything. But it turns out he made the doctor was one of his friends, and all these people were one of his friends, and this guy didn't actually die. So all of a sudden, she felt a sense of protection, and he had something on her. So a lot of times in relationships, you may feel safe with that person, just like we feel comfortable with depression. We feel comfortable with that thing, and that's what probably you feeling comfortable with your depression, or you feeling comfortable with working at a certain job that you hate. That could be the worst thing with helping you to free yourself of that. That's one of the reasons why I do cold showers, is because it shocks my nervous system. It puts me in a place that I'm uncomfortable for
Mm-hmm.
that time. It's good for
Chakra alignment.
chakra alignment, enhancing your immune system,
Mm-hmm.
and it just will shock that. So
Mm-hmm.
like all of a sudden I'm put in an uncomfortable situation that I'm like talking to a passenger. It's like, dude, give this lady a ride, and all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
I'm like talking about this relationship with it. It puts
Mm-hmm.
me in a place that I've always been pretty good at this, but it's constantly I got to get better and better and better. I mean, sometimes I have like raw conversations with 15-year-olds in my lift, and I don't even think I'm supposed to give them rides. And sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, why am I talking to them like this? And then I got the rides. It's like, hey, I appreciate you. Like no adults talk to me like that.
In Lakesh, right? You are my other me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I always check, and I'm sure I'm not
Mm-hmm.
100%, but I always check to get at reading the room. But also I'm smoothly and methodically pushing them past their comfort zone when they're ready. But if somebody's not ready, and and then I know not to say something. I can sit and be present with that person, and we could do some of that stuff subconsciously, or we could just like talk about stupid funny things. It all changes up. So one of the things in a domestic violence or situation, they're going to cut you off. And this would be for like a cult, any type of cult. This would be what they're doing is they're cutting off your relationship with your mother. They're cutting off their relationship with your father, your girlfriends. I mean, it might start with, oh, I don't want you going out and having any girls' night outs or anything like that. And
Yeah.
that makes it easier that
Mhm.
you're staying in the situation. I mean,
Mhm.
I have friends that were toxic friends
Mhm.
that I kept as friends just because they were the thing that I could just like say some just creepy joke to.
And let me interject on that.
Yeah, yeah.
When someone in your life, whether your partner romantically, your friend, or X, Y, and Z, tries to control who you hang out with, who you see, what circles you put yourself in, and they try to restrict you, that is them trying to isolate you, right? Trying to make you feel like you are alone, that you have no community. And this makes it easier for them to manipulate you. And that can be problematic. That's not healthy, right? Um, because then it puts you in a state where you can easily fall into depression. You can easily fall into this dark state, and that's not good, right? I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I always kind of choose my independence more than anything, because that's where I feel strong. That's where I feel like I can come forward and do a lot of things, because I don't like to feel controlled. I like to feel free. I'm on the pursuit of happiness, baby. don't
Yeah, yeah.
don't come into my life and tell me I can't go out with my friends for dinner, or if I'm dating a man, like, don't come into my life and tell me I can't hang out with another man. Like, just because someone chooses to hang out with the opposite gender doesn't mean there's some type of attraction.
But also if you're in that place, be willing to have a conversation with, yeah,
Right.
he wants to fuck you. I just want you to know that you could be
Mhm.
friends with him and everything, and I'm fine if you
Mhm.
acknowledge that that might be the case.
Mhm.
So shit doesn't necessarily sneak up on you
Right.
to the
But see,
to
that's why communication is important,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Because
Because if you're not having,
people do exploit what you're talking about also.
I
and
agree.
but also I'm freedom's my number one value.
Mhm.
So if I'm going into a relationship, I want to trust that person, and
Mhm.
I know that most of the time when I'm feeling jealous,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily wisdom, it's my issue.
Yeah, it's an insecurity, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay to have insecurities,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's better when you will let the other person know, hey, like, I know you want to hang out with this person, but this is how it makes me feel.
Yeah, yeah.
And if that person acknowledges your feelings and is careful to not hurt your feelings, and that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to completely close my doors to that other person, right? You just have to be able to come to an understanding, to a consensus, and be on the same page.
And also I know that us having an argument about that kind of makes that person in a mental frame, a male perspective, it makes that person necessary, and probably a female society, it makes that person like more sexy. That's probably the person you're going to hook up with after the relationship's over, just to get back at that person.
I'm dead. But
And
that's that
and
darkness,
we've
bro.
all had those thoughts. What was
That's
that?
that darkness. That's why you
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
be careful. That's why you got to ever since you taught me, I'm kind of mad at you for this one. You should have taught me about
You,
microdosing the darkness earlier on. I think that's the best
you
way
weren't
to
ready. You weren't ready.
clearly microdose your darkness.
What do you think? What do you think SDSU breathing for peace is? That's microdosing the darkness.
I'm gonna just grip my little stone.
So We'll go into
One
that.
love.
So when you're a baby, we come into this world, and a lot of babies don't breathe at first. So during my generation, they used to spank them. Now I think they went to tickling because it does the same thing. Because you
No,
really want
they
to come
still
to
spank them.
they still spank them. Oh, I heard some. They also do tickling. We've talked about this before. So you're not breathing, and then because like imagine being out of this world, and then all of a sudden coming into this world is
Out of
like
the
probably
womb.
like over. Even though when you're in your mom's stomach, you're also in this world. But I think that's another quantum
Yo,
jump.
but fresh out the womb.
Yeah. Stress plus. Yeah. So you're not breathing, and then you get smacked, and then you breathe, and that's the pattern a lot of us are on. That we have to have this darkness happen to us, these problems happen to us, so we
Yeah.
breathe. And that horrible relationship can be that reminder to breathe. And in our future,
Yeah.
we want to breathe without having to have
The
the darkness
smack.
happen to us.
Yeah.
So right now, I want to take an opportunity for us to breathe. And no matter how your relationship is, because your relationship could be horrible, and you stepping up in this moment for the right you could totally heal that particular relationship. And only you can make that choice, or maybe you and your partner make that choice. Both of you individually and collectively make that choice within that relationship. So I want everybody to pause right now and think about the future. Creating a positive future with the relationship that serves all the masters, that gives you all the freedom that you want, gives you the level of intimacy you want, and just is able to get you to the right place at the right time as you feel yourself, the future you. It's just like an example recently, a video that I did about a way to hack yourself to keep from drinking a Coca-Cola. Because you might want to repress yourself and say, you're like, you really fucking want a Coca-Cola. Just like you really want a fucking good relationship. You really want a fucking Coca-Cola. Or you really want something toxic that's going, you feel that. But instead, you drink yourself a nice glass of water. And maybe,
good call.
just maybe, the future you that drank that glass of water doesn't want a Coca-Cola. Because if you repress yourself, you might all of a sudden like not drink a soda for 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden you drink on a Thursday, you drink 6 of them. So you want to have the proper balance and not repress yourself, and know that, well, okay, I still feel like drinking a Coca-Cola, but I drank this water. So the same thing with it. We need to start channeling into that vortex that we're creating. So it might be, I need to go to college. So how can I figure out, you can do online classes. How can I figure out why he's at work and he's got me bottled up in this house? How can I figure out how to take online classes? How can I figure out how to block my internet so he can't see that I'm taking online classes? How can I figure that? And what you're doing is you're creating that swing low, sweet chariot. You're creating that compelling future that's helping you step off of it. Because right now, you might not be able to step out of this relationship. You can, but you might not feel, and you might not have the support network because a lot of those legs of the chair and the table were broken. So you can slowly build and know that there's a lot of time in relationships that I want to have like really good conversations, but other people aren't necessarily apt to have those conversations.
Yeah, they're not ready.
Correct. I remember I start with I remember, and then I forgot that Alec Baldwin had did the tape where he yells at his daughter, his 9-year-old daughter. And I was in a relationship that a woman's like, oh, how can you do that? And I was like, you do that to your daughter like every day. And for like little stuff.
Mm.
And I could understand to his certain extent with his ego being successful in this situation, and his daughter's probably not responding, going through a divorce
Mm.
and everything. I can understand that, probably put in his same situation. Do I condone it? Hell to the fuck no. But I understand. But having more understanding of how others and noticing the other you of how I'm doing that in certain ways and being congruent, that's how you heal the future you,
Mm.
by having an understanding of that. So think about relationships that you have with friends, your job. Think about, can they be healed? Only you will know when it's the right time to walk away. There's lots of support groups, but sometimes you may not be able to see those groups because you're on the vibration of of uh, of extreme suffering. But
Or
anytime
you
we
might
are,
not have the resources or the money, because that's one important
money too.
conversation
Yeah, yeah,
that needs to happen, is that, I mean, obviously people encourage, oh, go get a therapist, or oh, why don't you get a counselor, or X, Y, and Z. Um, and that can be pricey. It can be expensive, and it can always also be such an expenditure of energy, right? I know, at least me growing up, having counselors in school, having counselors, in the hospitals and stuff, it was exhausting work to have to tell and retell your story, right? Um, but I think one of our goals, right, working together, you and I, Steve, is always to help funnel these resources and help make these resources available and attainable. And I think we do a pretty good job of kind of collecting that information and making it accessible to people on the Cannabis Wellness Party website.
yeah, yeah. So, domestic domestic violence. One of the things on that they did on the college campuses, as far as making catcalling part of
Mm.
the rape culture, I didn't necessarily like that.
What do you mean?
I didn't. I don't. If they have a hierarchy for it, that it starts here. Like if you say
Mm.
like marijuana's a gateway drug, I can accept that to a certain fact, because somebody that won't do marijuana from like fear, they're not most likely not going to do coke or meth. So I can understand it being a gateway drug. And I can understand that somebody that wouldn't cut, well, actually there probably are guys that won't cat call out a woman that will be violent in other ways. So that probably is that probably is the case. So
Hmm.
if somebody's having a consensual a CEO is having a consensual relationship with their secretary, there could be some power dynamics that are forcing that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a biology that women are attracted to we I like the full story on things. They might be attracted to the same thing, but you can't say to me that assault in the alley is just as bad as a cat call.
Yeah.
And 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 I might, like, if I'm looking at somebody that's having a consensual relationship at work, I want to look closer. I want to see, because somebody might be the woman or the younger man might be totally fine with it, but that doesn't necessarily make it right. But it's not aggressive something in an alley.
Mm.
Um, so I think it's important that we're able to do that, because the more, if all of a sudden, like, oh, all these men that catcall women need to be go to go to hell or something like that, all of a sudden you're taking people away from your cause. You're taking
Mm.
people that can support, because think about the men. have protected women from a lot of these things.
Right. And domestic violence can come in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
come from a man,
for
right?
sure.
Because that's the common theme is that it comes from a man. It's usually a man hitting a woman, and that's not true. I mean,
But
you're a living
we could
testimony of this.
we could also go to the fact, because I've been in a lot of fights in my day, mostly when I was younger. But
Hmm.
that being hit there hurt more than any of those.
Yeah.
I've been hit with a shovel. I mean, I've had a lot of stuff, but just being hit across the room, where I was
Hmm.
scared that I might have the impulse to react back.
Yeah.
I went and I don't think I've ever told you this, but she went on vacation with one of her friends, and then she ended up buying this shirt that said, if morale doesn't improve, beatings will continue.
No way, dude.
She bought that shirt for me, and
What the
I was like,
fuck?
and and I wore it because I was like, and I might have been under a lot of the shit that I'm
Are you
talking about, but
serious?
also
You
but
wore
also
that shit?
but also I'm like
Wow.
you can't kill you. I mean, you cannot fucking kill me with something like this. Like
Oh
I
my
was I
gosh.
was I was a in victim in a empowered place
Oh my goodness.
situation. Um, but I was like I was like, man, look, put that on the other side. Put that on the other side. That would Most
Wow.
people would think that was like, I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that shirt probably didn't that shirt was probably like just like a fun joke, but the execution of doing that, like even saying, "Oh, we saw this shirt, I was gonna get it," was like too much. Um,
Yeah. It's like
and
she was trying to ridicule and have this power dynamic with you, even explicitly in front of other people.
yeah, yeah. I would rather have her be ashamed to not want to tell her friend that she did that.
Yo, she needs some healing.
Yeah, yeah. This is a long time ago.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
Hopefully she has gotten her healing. So
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard when you've gone past a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times it feels like you're drowning and people are teaching you how to swim.
Yeah.
So we need to teach ourselves to swim proactively when we're not drowning.
Yeah. And no, okay, so myself, right? I'm gonna reflect a little bit on my past, on my situation. Um, I wanted to be that ride or die. Like I wanted to be that person that held it down, 10 toes down for my partner. Because I mean, look at my parents. They were married for over 20 years, right? And I wasn't married, but knowing that I had a baby and being with a man who came from a broken home because he had no he grew up in the streets. You know, my ex, my baby's father didn't have a solid foundation for family. And I think a lot of what he had with me felt like security, a security blanket, and he had abandonment issues. Because every time I would try to leave, like it was this attempt to suicide. It was this attempt to, no, I can't live without you. It was, I can't, if you break up with me, I'm gonna kill myself because I can't see life without you. And I mean, look at me now. I'm over almost a year, I think, at this point, um, that I broke up with him, and he's still alive and he's doing great, I think, but I stayed down. I stayed as a ride or die for a really long time just because I didn't want to create a broken home for my son. But really, while I was in it, I was dying inside. I was emotionally dead. Like multiple times he said to me, like, I know you don't love me, then why are you with me? And every time I would try to break up with him, it was like, this is why I'm with you, because you're gonna kill yourself. And
Yeah.
it took coronavirus, it took manifesting coronavirus. Y'all know what my last name is? It took manifesting that to be able to leave San Diego, because if I don't think, if I hadn't left San Diego, I would probably still be in that situation. I felt like I had nowhere to go, right? I don't have family in San Diego. He was my roommate slash housemate slash partner.
What about me? I'm family.
I mean, yeah, but I'm not gonna go live with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree.
That's a
100%.
solid boundary. That's a solid thing
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
established as friends, right? Like, no,
I was just talking
Jeanette,
about
you
the family stuff. You ain't staying. Yeah. That's. I was just talking about the family
right.
shit.
But in terms of my living situation, it was survival for me too, sticking through with him. Even though I was gonna be able to up and leave, I knew that if I did that, where was he going to end up? Because I knew he had like evictions on his credit. He didn't have good credit. You know, he probably didn't even have enough money to up and leave and put a down payment on a new place or security deposit. So in part, I was trying to protect him too. I didn't want him to kill himself, right? But after a certain point, I was like, okay, yeah, how much longer am I going to allow this to continue? How much longer am I going to live and be dead inside? Take your chance when it comes. Don't wait. Don't wait on it, baby.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to go into something that I've learned to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I notice, how long does it take us to notice these patterns? I've learned how
Yeah.
to notice those patterns in the first 5 minutes. Because if you observe and slow down, people are going
Mm-hmm.
to play their hand in the first 5 minutes that you meet them.
Mm.
So when I talk to people, I feel their energy coming into my heart, because I feel your heart is the biggest bullshit detector.
Mm.
Because your brain, people learn to manipulate, and they're reading your facial expressions, especially the more manipulative they are, and they're kind of speaking to that thing, and they might be doing a cold read with, oh, if I talk about helping support her business model or whatever the case is, then I'm gonna be able to get her to do a lot of things that she wouldn't necessarily want to do, because I'm kind of like finding out what her story is and what her dream is, and showing how I'm a crucial part of that. So when I met my ex, and this is a small thing,
Mm.
I noticed that she had bought some nachos, and the issues that I brought to a relationship was a financial relationship at the time. She
Mm.
bought some nachos, and I manipulated it in a way that I would hold the nachos, and she thought it was so caring that I was doing it, but I was just doing it because I didn't have money to pay for the nachos, and it was just like better if I did my part to do that. So in that relationship, as long as I was playing the part enough, she would provide for the financial side for that,
Mm.
and way more than I ever asked or ever needed. And it kind of bothered me to the extent that it was going, because I mean, I really cared about her sincerely.
Yeah.
Did I push a relationship faster because of that? Yes. Second one, I want to talk about a business situation. I had
Mm-hmm.
a business partner that when we first met, first meeting we had, he said, I don't care about anybody. All I care about money. So when the first
Red
when the
flags.
when the first situation came that people didn't think they didn't need him and it was about money, he
Oh
kicked me to
man.
the curb in a second.
Red
I trained
flags.
myself, and I don't think I need this anymore because it doesn't happen. Two songs would come to remind. I'd see like a woman that would smile at me and everything, and she seemed like very sweet. And I play that Belle Biv DeVoe, I never trust a big button to smile.
Mm.
because I just felt like, oh, there might be something that's happening here. Or I'd
Mm-hmm.
see somebody that would switch, and I would also sing "Shorty Wanna Thug." Sometimes I'd be going and I'd start humming it, and then all of a sudden I'd look from the corner of my eye, and then there's this woman like way over there looking at me, and I learned to instead of just like initially just walking past somebody and knowing, oh, stay away from this person because if you go there, she'll be giving you something that you want. Poison, Belvedere poison. Yes, yes. She'll be giving you something that you want, and you'll lose focus of exactly what you need in that space. So, Justin, you want to join us? Oh, we got that cut off. There we go. So, I want to talk about a woman that this situation of the new improved me kept me from wanting to be in a relationship with her. So I met her. Um, she lived up the street, so I passed her a lot. Seemed to be a nice, very sweet woman. And my intuition told me she's a sweet woman, but she's the type of woman that will stab you in your sleep. And I
Oh,
trusted my
that's
intuition.
scary.
Yeah, trusted my intuition. I was staying
Fuck.
I was staying away from it.
From your intuition?
No, 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 from that relationship, or
Oh.
or even going in further. Another time I was with her talking, and her son said, "I don't like black people." Like all of a sudden, like and then
Did
she
her
was
son channel that message from her?
no, no, no. He was saying she was saying, "Oh no, we have this friend and this friend. You like those people and everything." But he was protecting her, but also he was protecting me. That's where I took it in there. And he gave me a look that he gave me like he was like 5. He goes, "Yeah, I know what the fuck I said." and but I'm like, I'm not getting sucked into it. I acknowledge you're a 5-year-old in the situation. Your mother can handle this if she wants to handle this, but this isn't my issue. But thanks for the reminder for me to stay away from your mom. And years later, not too many years from there, his mom committed suicide. And she went into a relationship that rarely ever does a woman commit suicide. And my intuition protected me from that because that could have been me, like going into that um, and getting to that place. And that her son is somebody that I want to help at some point. He sees me, he sees my car, and every in that situation, he smiles when he sees my car. He remembers from before, but he's still young. He may be 10 at this time, and I want to be able to reach him and help him at some point. Um, because yeah, that's very very sad, and I don't think I could have, like, if I would have like married her or whatever, and it wasn't even close to that point. We're talking about I was warned. I I could have been trying to help him and save him. And I remember being in another relationship from the one I was talking before and saying, I can help these two children better by getting out of this relationship and shifting the whole world.
Hmm.
So you can, anytime in contrast, and this is one of the things Abraham Hicks teaches a lot, when when we get to go to a really dark place, we're also creating a different world.
Another vortex.
Yeah, yeah, a positive thing. That suffering, that level of suffering that we see helps us
Hmm.
attract something. And that's more of the humming the swing low sweet chariot, is because you're feeding that positive future that isn't going to be perfect, but and maybe nothing changes except for the you that is in that future.
Hmm.
Because I still notice patterns and notice relationships and different things that wouldn't be the best for me, but I choose feeling comfortable about myself that I don't walk into those relationships.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Protecting your energy.
Setting boundaries.
Boundaries.
Boundaries are very important, and you have to know.
And knowing when to push those boundaries, like we said last time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
our family pushes our buttons, but
Mm-hmm.
having those buttons pushed. I'll give you an example with the ex that I talked about. How I didn't have like a lot of she wouldn't let me talk to my friends and everything, and she cut down my support. But
Mm-hmm.
also when I got out of that relationship, I had a lot more space because those friendships based on her talking a lot of shit about me, they didn't see me as the guy that they saw me for a
Mm-hmm.
long period of time, and my image was broken. But
Mm-hmm.
that was the best way for me to be able to change my image,
Mm.
because if your image, if like there's a lot of people that admire you and think you're great and think like everything's perfect about you, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
why am I going to change?
Yeah.
That might be enough for somebody. So to have like everything broken down for you, it's easier to build, because you build a house or a big building by going below ground and building the foundation
From the
in
bottom up.
there. So if you have a building that's like a big, strong building or anything like that, you might not want to tear it down in order to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm turning a negative into a positive.
Mm.
Does anybody have any questions? Did you have
Yeah.
anything?
Comments or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to organizations like Veterans Walk and Talk. I know that's one of our partnered organizations, and they help people who have served, um, providing cannabis, a safe space to use cannabis, and also encouraging people to get out and moving. Right, I've seen a few hikes posted on their page. If you know anyone who's a veteran and needs resources, that's a really good place for them to start. Um,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I always also like to encourage people to reach out to the suicide prevention line. I've actually resorted to using it, not because I was suicidal, but because, like I mentioned before earlier, with my baby's father, being suicidal, I entered the at the very end of our relationship, he did enter a very destructive moment, where I had like I went into a nervous breakdown. I could not control my emotions, and that was not the first time I went through it, but that was the last time that I went through it, and I was hysterical. And I called the National Suicide Prevention Line, and they really were able to kind of help walk me through, and reassure me that he was going to be okay, that he was not going to kill himself, that it was just kind of like a tantrum, that he was throwing just to keep me around a little longer. Um, yeah, if you ever find yourself in dire need or a dire situation, really like just reach out, you know, call them, even if you're scared or you don't know what to say. A lot of those people are professionals and will probably give you the right words, or reach out to us. We're not professionals in the health world, but I'm pretty sure that we have some experiences to share, and we might have good words of encouragement
We're
for
we're,
you.
we're not professionals, but one thing we'll a couple things we'll do. We'll be patient.
Yeah.
We'll listen, and we will be part of your support network, whatever that looks like for you, to free you from that situation,
Right.
because you may be blinded to some resources based on the place that you're
Mm-hmm.
in at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody told me this about for peer pressure, that to explain it, how if you take an apple and you take a onion and you put them in the refrigerator, and then after a week you bite the apple, it tastes like an onion. So when you're in this relationship, you may have lots of like your friends that you're around. When you're in this relationship, you may be taking in a lot of that energy that you may not see that you're an apple smelling like an onion.
Mm.
And we can kind of speak to the future you and be
Mm-hmm.
that place that just kind of meets you at some point to do that. And ultimately, you're going to have to do most of the work
Yeah,
to do that, but we can hold your hand through that
you
process.
sure can. I also, hey, I wanted to share these. I got some pretty cool stickers in the mail for all of
Look at
y'all
that.
that know. Hashtag Mama Coco Redención. We're trying to help uplift different businesses. Um, Jedi lawyer. This one's going to be for you, Justin Muzak. I'm going to share some of these stickers. Yes.
Anything else? Are we good?
I think we're good. I don't think anybody, unless anybody else has anything else to add or say or questions, I think this is a good place to wrap up.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Peace.
That's a